Well, good day to you. It is May the 25th, 2025, and I hope wherever you are, or wherever you will be, you're doing well. Now, my name is Gary Willing. I want to welcome you to Search for Signs. I would also like to just encourage anyone who is interested in knowing more about this information to look into it and investigate it for yourself. The internet is wide open. You can do it however you want to do it. So I'm not saying this is the only way to do it, but the best way to do it, as far as I'm concerned, is to look at the Share International site. The link is at the very top. There are other links that talk about this information in some way, but the link at the very top, the Share International link, takes you to Share International's web page, and that is the best site to get the best background information about what I talk about here. So hopefully you'll look into it. The information is free, and it's just there waiting for you whenever you want to look into it. If you want to come back and join the discussion, post a comment, let me know what you think. If you have a question or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10 or more even about what I have to say here, post your question or questions in the comments section, and I'll try to answer it in the next video. Or you can email me that question to searchforsigns@mail.com. Now, before I get into the question portion of this video, I wanted to share something with you that I've been thinking about lately. But I'm going to start off talking a little bit about myself, which I don't like to do. But you don't know this about me, but when I record these videos, I have to typically go back and record it again. I can probably count on one hand, maybe even one finger, the number of times that I was able to knock out a video without having to go back and re-record it. I know it sounds like I just throw them up on the fly, and it's because I do. But I do listen to it and re-listen to it and go back, re-record it, and I have little to no editing skills whatsoever. So I don't record the whole thing, and even if I make a mistake, keep going, and then I can go back and cut that out and put what I really wanted to say in there. I just don't do that. So I have to go back and start all over again. So if it's a 20-minute video, 30-minute video, it's going to take me another 30 minutes to get it over, to get through it. So it does take me a while. Now, I even notice that, because I do it, it's not even a noticing, I do it all the time, because when I record Ben's Master's articles, I have to go back and record it again because I screwed something up. Whether I got hung up on a pronunciation of a word, or I screwed up the sentence structure, or whatever it happens to be. And a lot of times I get all the way to the bitter end and I have to go back and do it again. And I have to go back and do it again. And then eventually I get through it some kind of way. I used to get really frustrated, and there's a point to why I'm saying this, but I used to get really frustrated with this because I wanted to knock out maybe 5 in one time and then schedule the posting of it, that kind of thing, so I could do it over days. And rather than doing 5, I might only be able to do 3 because I have to keep going back and re-recording the same video. So I get a little frustrated, but I noticed that I was actually learning something. I was starting to really get what he was saying. I was picking up on things that I wasn't picking up on at first reading. And when I read this quote from one of his articles, that's what happened the other day. When I was reading this article, I had to go back and re-record it again. And I think it was the second or third time that I read it. I got an answer to a question I was wanting from his master, because Ben's master for years worked through Ben and wrote articles through Ben that were published in Share International about a lot of things. A lot of them about the problems in the world. A lot of them about the situations that were going on at the time that he wrote the article. Others about Maitreya's role with humanity in the future and what's awaiting the future of humanity and those kind of things. But really, when it came to the problems of the world, he spoke about the problems in a way that I've not gotten. You can't get anywhere else. And you would only understand that if you really took the time to read these articles for yourself and not just listen to me read them to you. And I know people post all the time, oh, thank you for that article, that meant a lot, and blah, 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 blah. But it really, you get so much more if you read it yourself. I can't stress that enough. It's okay to listen to me read it to you, but it's better for you to read it yourself at some point, because you'll pick up on what he's really trying to say. Now, when I started reading the articles 30 years ago, I didn't look at it like this. It took decades for me to finally understand that, because Maitreya is not out known for who he is yet. So the more I read these articles, the more I was like, this is how the masters are going to be teaching humanity. This is how Maitreya will be speaking to humanity. And what do I mean by that? When Ben's master talks about a problem, he shines such light on it, but is able to speak about it in a very, very simple way to where really anybody can understand what he's saying. He doesn't repeat himself. He doesn't over-explain something like I do. And I know I repeat myself and I know I explain myself. So if you're thinking that, I already know that about me, and I'm trying not to, but he, like I'm about to, repeat myself again. He doesn't do that. He speaks very simply. He speaks with clarity, and I think with truth. But it's a really indicative of how Maitreya is and will be speaking to humanity. Because when he talks about the problems, and this is important to think about, he really explains the dangers of allowing these problems to fester in the way that we are doing, not doing anything with them, like the environment, right? Good example. The dangers of it, that the urgency in fixing the problem, but yet he speaks with no fear. And he has such conviction and faith in humanity that we are going to get through this. And he has such a faith, and I know Maitreya speaks to humanity in this same way, that we're going to get through this more so than even I do. And I have a lot of hope for humanity, but I don't have the faith and conviction that they do, and certainty that we will get through this and we will solve the problems. And yet, talk about the dangers. Where else are you hearing this in the news or on the media? You just don't get it. So if you really want to know how these masters are and how they'll be teaching humanity, you really, read Ben's Master's article. But moving on. So the reason why I was saying about the recording of it, like I said, and the re-recording of it, is because I picked up on it the second time or third time that I read it. Now, the other reason why I'm bringing this up is because a question that I would have loved to ask Ben's Master about, but I can't because Ben's passed away, is about all the misinformation. Now, I don't know about you, but I stopped picking up calls from numbers that I didn't recognize. I don't click on links from text messages that I don't recognize the number from. And a lot of times when I get emails, even from people that I know very well, that send me a link to this, that, and the other, I don't just click on that link because I don't know what it's going to take me to or what kind of malware it's going to put on my computer. So a lot of times I'll turn around and I'll call this person. Like my mom sends me links all the time. And I'll call her, did you send me this link? And she'll say yes. And then I'll click on it. But up until that point, I don't even click on that link, right? Are you like that? So there's this distrust that's coming within me and it's building up within me about what I'm receiving because I don't trust it. Because everyone's out to get something. There's all this competition everywhere, not only between nations, but between each and every one of us. And until that competition is gone, how can you trust anybody, right? How can you trust the information that you're getting? And it could be on any topic that you would think would be very clear and a no-brainer. And then somebody will come out and say, well, it's not that, it's this. And then a group of people will start talking about. I mean, it could be anything, I'm just saying about anything, right? And COVID's a real virus. No, COVID's not a real virus. COVID's caused by 5G towers. No, it's not. I mean, it was just going on and on. And that's one example, but there's thousands of examples of this, right? And you really can't know what the truth is. Lastly, my mother is a good example of this. She is not an opinionated woman. She's not honed in on her own opinions, but she does have a strong rooted opinion about things. But she is also open-minded and willing to listen to what you have to say. She's one of those rare souls that will let you finish talking about something that she totally disagrees with, but she'll let you finish. I know I can't even say that about myself, honestly, right? I wish I was more like my mother, and I'm trying to be more like my mother, but I'm not. At this moment in time, like my mom. But she is becoming more vocal about her opinions. And typically at the end, she'll say something to the effect of, well, who knows the truth? Or what is the truth? Or something like that. And this is all coming from her distrust of the information that she's getting, right? Which could be conflicting from one of her friends or what she hears on the news and da-da-da-da-da. So I wanted to ask Ben's Master this question. What do we do with all this? How do we navigate through these shark-infested waters of misinformation and outright lies and a social media that's on steroids where anybody can say whatever they want to say and never back it up with facts? And the media can say whatever they want to say and not back it up with facts. Politicians can say whatever they want to say, and no one's holding them accountable to facts, because really right now in the media, there are two camps with two different versions of the truth. You know what I'm saying? So what did Ben's master say about this that I wanted to share with everybody? And like I said, hopefully this will help you. He said the first priority is true knowledge of the facts. This, however, is hard to find. So many voices chant or scream their various conflicting information. So many opinions are elevated to the status of facts that few can be believed or listened to with respect. Under such conditions, caution and restraint are wisely counseled. So that's what I wanted to share. Like I said, when I read that, I was like, wow, that was the answer to my question. I have other questions. Maybe I'll find them when I read these articles more than once. You know, because we're living in a totally different world than we were when Ben just passed away, 9 years ago or whatever it was. It's pretty crazy how fast things have really grown. All right, and not grown, but how fast things are going, is what I meant to say. All right, so let's see. This is a question, how to connect Master Maitreya, how to connect with him? Please tell me. I've talked about this from time to time. It's using the image of the hand of Maitreya. I don't have it on the background of this video, but if you go to the Share International site, they have a whole page devoted to the hand of Maitreya. I think I have a link, that rhymes. I think I have a link to a YouTube video where Benjamin Crème is talking about the hand of Maitreya, where it came from, what it means for humanity and those kind of things. But just in, kind of in general, it's a rather unique miracle. It was a handprint of Maitreya. It looks like the Shroud of Turin. It's like a 3D image of the handprint of Maitreya that was put on a mirror in Barcelona, Spain. And the other good news about it is that you don't have to travel to Barcelona, Spain and see it on this mirror. You can actually just look at an image of it. So if you go to the Share International site, you can even download, I think, a PDF file of it and put it on your computer or take a screenshot on your phone, and it'll work the same way. But Maitreya said it's the closest that he can get to any one of us until he's out known for who he is in the world. So you look at this image of the hand of Maitreya and ask him for his help or make a request or so forth. The other thing that Ben said about it some time ago was he said, be very specific about your requests. The vaguer it is, the worse it is for him. The harder it is for Maitreya to figure out what you really want. So don't try to hide your intentions with it, because he knows your intentions before you even ask it. So, but be specific. And I noticed for myself and there's two really good examples of how to use the hand of Maitreya. The first one was when I asked him for help cleaning a building. I was specific. I didn't realize I was being this specific at the time, but I just kind of was venting. And I asked for help taking trash out of this one side of the building that I was cleaning. The next week, he did help me. For 5 days, he helped me. I didn't know and think about it at the time. I would have missed it, that he had helped me, until the only reason why I knew he did it was because a woman who was the one that actually saw him, through a conversation that we had about a month later, it just came up because she was telling me about it. She was asking me to tell a person that works with me not to lock this door. And I was like, what are you talking about? There's nobody that works with me. And then she started to explain that there was a man that worked with me from time to time that got the trash. Well, that person happened to end up being Maitreya. I had never seen him. I never saw him working with me. He never came and worked with me side by side to where I knew that was Maitreya. So if I was expecting that kind of help, I would have missed it. But he did come and help me. But the other thing about this conversation, this story that's quite astounding to me, was when I wanted to record this on the video, I wanted to record this experience on a video on my channel. I couldn't remember the woman's name who was the one who saw him. And I asked again, very specifically, Maitreya, while looking at the hand of Maitreya, if he could help me remember her name. That's what I asked. The next day I ran into her in a part of town that I had never seen before, that I'd never seen her in before. I ran into her the very next day. So use it, but be specific, and that will create that connection that you're longing for Maitreya, for sure. Now, let's see, what else? Do you expect Maitreya to come in the year 2025? No, I do not. No, I don't know. He can come anytime at any moment, and really, he's never left. In the last video I put up, somebody put in there, they one of the things they said was Maitreya's never left, and that's true. He's never left. How did this person? Let me quote them exactly. Excuse me. I don't want to misquote people. Yeah, the Christ never left is what they said. Yeah, the Christ has never left. The Christ has been here the whole time. In fact, the Christ has already been speaking to humanity directly since Ben made the announcement in January 2010. So, but when will we recognize him? That will happen at our own time. So, for instance, you might recognize him over the next few months. It might be another year before I recognize him. It might be another 2 to 5 years before he makes his declaration on the day of declaration, where we all know for certain that that's him. And then it might be lifetimes before every one of us recognize him as their long-awaited teacher, I guess. I don't know. But when will he come out and we'll know who he is, or will we recognize him? Well, that's for each and every one of us. That's why it's good to know this information, because it will make it easier for you to recognize him on TV. If you look at him and what he's saying as what Benjamin Creme's master and how he says it, it will make it easier for you to recognize him. You won't be asking me questions about this person or that person or this person, because they don't speak like that. You know what I mean? Every time somebody's asked me, is this person Maitreya? And I have to answer it, which I don't like to do. If the person would have just studied Benjamin Creme's master's articles, they would have never asked me that question, because they would have had a better sense of how Maitreya is, as far as I'm concerned. So hopefully that helps. Now, I also think that when you do finally recognize them, whenever that is, it will be on a day that you were not expecting it to happen. And this is even for me too, you know what I mean? And when he is starting to really make waves, in the world and inspiring the changes that we're talking about here, it will be very, very disruptive in a good way. So I know for myself, I'm 53. I got a few more years left before I may be retiring from my job. I'm already starting to kind of plan out what I'm going to do. I think it will happen before then, and it will disrupt all those plans. And then I'll have different plans that I have to deal with. You know what I mean? In a good way. But it's more important for me that the world has a world to live in, and that there's justice and peace out there, than me just having a comfortable and laid back retirement. Hopefully that helps. And I'm laughing because this is just some of the thoughts that I've had out there and stuff like this. Now, here's one. Why does every religion wait for the one to come, only to die waiting? I do admit it's bad, like cashless system, chipped forehead bad. Yeah, that's pretty bad. But there is a very good chance you will die waiting too. Well, maybe. Why wait? As far as I'm concerned, I guess that would be my question back to that. There is a world that needs you. Every one of us are here for a reason. And the reason is because this is the time when the masters are coming back into the everyday world. This is the time when we're going from one age to another. It's a very tumultuous time. But if you believe this information on any level, speak about it on that level. If you only believe it 2 to 5%, then just talk about it from 2 to 5% of the time. Or speak about it with 2 to 5% conviction, whatever that means, right? You don't have to speak about something that you don't believe 100% if you don't believe it 100%, right? But if you want peace, talk about the need for peace. If you think there might be a little bit of hope out there because the masters are coming back into the everyday world along with Maitreya, and that humanity might get through these problems, then share it with people when they talk about their concerns or their fears. Maybe we'll get through this. That might help somebody more than you know. You there are other ways to help too if you have other talents in other areas. I don't know. It just depends on this, but why wait? If you believe humanity is one and you've thought about it your whole life, well, then talk about it. Live your life like that. You don't have to wait for somebody else to do it if you're not doing it already. You know what I mean? And then so doing, you're not wasting the time. So am I wasting the time before Maitreya comes? No. And if I die before he comes out in the everyday world, like he told me one time, he said, you'll see me on TV real soon and we'll change the world together. Will I die before that happens? Maybe. I mean, there's no guarantees. Tomorrow is promised to no one, as they say. But hopefully I'm not wasting the time before then. Does that make sense? But anyway, hopefully it does. But thank you very much for the question. Now, this other one, did man evolve from monkeys or were we placed here a la ancient aliens? Ooh. The interesting thing about the origins of mankind, Ben's master wrote an article about that, and he talked about the two camps, the scientific camp that has their view on the origins of mankind and the universe, and the creationists in church and so forth. And he didn't say what one was right and one was wrong, which I found very interesting. See, I would tend to believe more what the scientists believe, but I don't agree with everything that they say. But what he said was that especially he was talking about the Christians and the origins of life and so forth with Adam and Eve and all that kind of stuff. They're talking about a divine intelligence that created this, where scientists really aren't. And that's where one got it right and one got it wrong, the other one got it right and the other one got it wrong. And that the two should really come together because they're really talking about the same truth. And then what would be discovered if science and the knowledge and the belief that there is a creator were to come together, right? That's really what the truth is. I do think that those questions would be answered better by a master. I also wanted to throw something in here too, that it's been said that in the future, kids in school, and I guess even us adults, would benefit and learn from these masters about history and ancient history and so forth, because the masters will put thought forms onto video where they see time, the past, the present, and the future all as one. So they're able to see and experience the past as it's going on now in the present. It's kind of weird and hard to understand because we don't see time like that. We see time linearly, but from their point of view, our view of time is an illusion. They see it as what it really is. So they would be able to put what they see as a thought form on tape for us to see. So we'll be able to see what it's like to see the dinosaurs on TV. We'll see it on TV or on a video or something like this in the future. Kind of cool. But I think the most important question, or a more important question, not that your question was wrong or shouldn't have been asked, because I think it's an important question, the origins of mankind, but what's more important is, where are we going? If we are evolving, what are we evolving to? Which the scientists aren't answering that question, right? If there is a divine intelligence, what is the divine intelligence? Are we a part of it, or are we separate from it? That's the other question that would need to be answered by the religious folks, right? So we could talk about where we're headed millions of years from now or thousands of years from now, but what does that really matter, right? So where I think is most important is what's immediately ahead for humanity, for all of us, right? Well, what's immediately ahead is we're about to see the Maitreya, who is the head and leader of the Masters of Wisdom, who we've never experienced somebody like him before. Totally uncorruptible, with joy and with this love that we have never, ever experienced. Any one of us have experienced before, ever. The Lord of Love. And it's unbelievably rare to have someone of his stature on a planet like ours. It's like really unheard of. But for him to start teaching humanity, loving all of humanity, whoever we are, right? We don't really understand the ramifications for each and every one of us and how that's going to impact us in that way, right? So that is going to really start to open people's eyes, obviously, and open their hearts to others and the problems of the world in a way that it isn't like this now. The way the world is today, when Maitreya's starting to really inspire humanity, it's going to switch very rapidly to the other side, where as divided as we are, we'll eventually be much more united in a way that we can't possibly imagine. But I do think there are 4 revelations that are really in the very near future, where we're headed as a species, that will really change everything on life on planet Earth with humanity, in regards to humanity. First is that we'll realize that there are these masters of wisdom, that we're not at the very top of the evolutionary species, even on this planet. So these masters of wisdom have been living on this planet the whole time, and we've thought the whole time that we were at the top. That we listen to our so-called world leaders, they know what they're talking about. Well, they don't. You know what I mean? These masters actually do. And I'm not expecting you to believe me. I'm not expecting you to trust them outright. But when you start to experience their wisdom, when we see them out in the world and see their love for each and every one of us, right? We'll start to trust them a little bit more, especially Maitreya. We'll start to trust him. Like, who is this man, right? I've never seen somebody like this before. He looks like an ordinary person, but what he's saying is so extraordinary. I understand what he's saying. It's meant for me. You know, I mean, it's not for them, or some other group. It's for me too. So, and what he says is inclusive like that. I mean, we don't understand what that's going to do to us, right? But we'll know for certain at that point that there's a kingdom above us, and that we're working toward that we're actually aspiring to that. We didn't realize it, but inwardly we had been aspiring to that perfection, to that state of being that they are. And that they are so humble and so honest and so see life as it truly is, that they see us as potential them. So therefore they will speak to us that way. They won't talk down to us. They'll speak to us as peers, because even though we don't manifest the love that they manifest, even though we don't have the wisdom at our fingertips as they do, we will, right? So they'll speak to us in that way. And then they'll guide us and help us, and to help us, keep us from making missteps, right? I always talk about how Maitreya will help us. Like, this could be an example. Trump is talking about building and removing regulations on nuclear power. Well, that's a very dangerous thing to do, because that's creating more pollution than even greenhouse gases. And no one's talking about it, but it's extremely dangerous. So in the future, when we want to do something like that, we could ask him, is this something that we should do? And he would say no, and then it would be for us to do it or not. So that's kind of how that will start to look, right? He will be a counselor, not a dictator. So we'll ask him, is this what we should do or not, or whatever, and he'll say yes or no. And it will be for humanity to follow it or not. So it will be a revelation for us to know about these masters. The other thing that will be a revelation is he will eventually be asked, is there life on other planets out there? And he'll say yes. And then we'll start to have evidence, more evidence. And we have evidence now, but we'll have conclusive evidence that there is life on other planets. And then he's going to drop a real bombshell on the world. And that is that there's life even on other planets in our solar system. And that these spaceships coming from that we see in the skies from time to time, that have been making the crop patterns and so forth and doing all sorts of wondrous light shows in the sky, are coming from our own sister planets in our solar system, right? Why is that? Why are we not seeing them? And then he's going to explain about the other levels of physicality called the etheric. And then when people ask, why are they here? Are they here to harm us? And he says, no, we have nothing to fear from them. That they are here only to help us. They mean us absolutely no harm. Because if they ever wanted to take us over, they would have taken us over so long ago. But yet we're afraid of them because we don't know where they're coming from. We don't know what their intentions are, but their intentions are to help us, right? And they have been helping us. And if it wasn't for us, we would be dead because of the way that we pollute our environment. So that's the other revelation. The next revelation is unity. That we are one. we talk about it and we think about it intellectually, but when Maitreya really elucidates on the problems and how really the problems are teachers. They're teaching us that we are one because they're affecting each and every one of us equally, like the environment. Injustice affects us all equally, even if we're on the side of injustice that is beneficial, right? Or pleasant, I guess. It's still affecting us. And it's for each and every one of us to do something about the problem, whether it's the environment or injustice or peace or whatever, right? And the lack of peace is affecting everyone. That tension is affecting everyone, whether you're Elon Musk or the poorest of the poor persons on the planet. The environmental problem and the pollution is affecting Jeff Bezos and his girlfriend just as much as it is affecting me and everybody else. It's making them just as sick and hurting their vitality just as it's hurting mine. And it'll be for each and every one of us to do something about it. The other one is the fact that we are souls in incarnation. And Ben hinted about this a little bit before he stopped coming to the United States, that he thought that these scientists were already in incarnation, but he didn't specify their ages. But that in the future, in the not so distant future, there will be scientists in France that will discover in a lab and be able to prove in a lab that we are souls. And then give their results of their experiments to other scientists around the world that they can do in their laboratories to show them that scientifically, that we are souls in incarnation. And those revelations, I think, will totally transform life on planet Earth, totally transform the way we see ourselves and ourselves in the universe. And I think that's more important really to think about than the origins of where we came from. But we'll eventually know the truth of that too. I love you guys for asking the questions. I love you for listening to this video all the way through, and I look forward to putting up videos in the very near future. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you in future videos.